Okay, great. Okay, are we ready? Is he there?
Yeah, well.
Not yet.
Well, no. Oh, well, wait a minute. Is it 6:30? Well, I see that Kate's there. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Kate, we were just vaguely talking about having that walk around with Third Street. What's the possibility?
Yep. Apologies for the delay on that. I was out at the beginning of the month, so I can follow up with you offline about that.
Yeah, maybe we can do it while the weather's warm. That would be good. Yeah. Do you get the chance to walk there? I guess you don't come to the meetings in person because it's actually like a block away.
No, I am familiar with the street. Yeah, I am.
Whatever, anyhow. Oh, hi, Katie. Okay, we gotta put all these people down. That's where it is. We got Donna. Last three. We got Katie Bonamero. Have we got Michael's yet? Because Michael's the one that's addressing our first item on the agenda. Markowitz, yes. Yes.
I mean, we could always switch items if he's not here.
Hi there, are you here for the traffic and transportation?
Yes, community board two.
Right, yeah. So come on, you can sit down here and there's a sign-in sheet there.
Phone number? Katie, I'll look for the phone number and email it to you, okay?
Hi, Katie.
Well, number
Glad to see you.
one,
Well, everybody's here except Michael's not, who's the one
Well,
that's.
let's just start with the second agenda.
yeah,
What?
let's do number two first then.
Yeah, and then we'll do number two and just ask you, anybody who is here for number one to please stick around. So Dan, are you okay with that?
I am ready to go.
Okay, then let's go. I will then introduce. Good evening, everyone. I don't know, there's not too many people here tonight, but whoever is here, welcome to Community Board 2 Manhattan's Traffic and Transportation Committee. I am Shirley Secunda, the chair of the committee, and I will introduce you to the rest of our committee. They'll introduce themselves. Okay, go, Lois.
Lois Ragloff, full board member.
Susan Ganny, full board member.
Anthony Wall, full board member.
Janine Kiley, full board member.
Janet Liff, full board member.
Oh, and by the way, we have somebody from Community Board 2 who's not a member of our committee, but you may introduce yourself.
Ben Listman, full board member.
Okay, and anybody else? And you're our guest, okay. So I think most of you are familiar with our routine, but I always like to tell anybody who might not have visited with us before what the routine is all about. And if you have seen our agenda, tonight we have, well, 3 items, but really 2. And the way it works is whoever is representing that item presents the item, which is often a request, sometimes a plan. The first, so tonight we're going to item number 2, actually. And then after that, each item is presented, each item at a time. First, the committee asks questions. Then after the committee asks questions, we go to our guests who can both ask questions and give commentary on whichever the items are. And hi there, you sign in, do you have that clipboard? I have. Oh, it's like, yeah, okay, we're here. Okay, we can go to item number 1 because here's Michael Muckins. I haven't recognized you, I haven't seen him so long.
Skip me till I can get a.
Well, talk with Anthony here.
Wi-Fi is up there.
Yeah. Oh, so you know what? You go second. We will start with the second item first. Okay. After we get that input, we go into business session, and in business session, we discuss the items that have been presented and decide on what the decisions should be. And often that results in a resolution. And that's really about it, I think, as far as our routine. We have a couple of ground rules, which is please don't speak until you're called on. And most of you are certainly who are online with the little hand symbol that you can just click on, and we will call on you for sure, we assure you. And here, everybody will raise their hand. And if you feel you must be speaking to somebody in the room, just mute yourself. I think we're going to be keeping you mute for the most part anyhow. And having said that, can you guys remember? Oh, one more thing. This is not the end or the end all be all of any decision. We have a full board meeting, and believe it or not, there won't be any meetings for traffic and transportation in August, nor will there be a full board meeting in August. So our next full board meeting is in September. Does anybody know what that date is?
It's September 19th, Thursday, September 19th.
September 19th?
Yeah.
Okay, so September 19th, anything that comes out of this meeting, that is any resolutions, any reports, will be presented at Community Board 2's full board meeting on September 19th. And then a final vote will be taken. And having said that, I'm going to now open the floor to Dan Miller, who, by the way, is also a member of our committee, and he will be addressing the need, the very big need for a bus route on 9A, also known as West Street. So go to it, Dan.
Okay, so can you all see the screen that I'm sharing? It says consideration for 9A bus route. Does everybody see that?
Yep.
Now, this is an old picture that I took. As you can see, I was expecting congestion pricing, but as we know, that has been obliterated for now, and hopefully it'll come back. But instead of taking it out, I decided to keep it there. So basically, let me just go to the next slide. Just hearing a bunch of different conversations from our community really kickstarted kind of this campaign to have a bus route. It's like, it's kind of confusing that we have this park that is visited by 17 million people every year, and yet we have no public transportation up and down West Street. So just some of the key things, I'm pulling these from either letters we received from Downtown Little League, Little Island, Downtown United Soccer Club, Hudson River Park Advisory Council, as well as Greenwich Village Little League. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people represented by these organizations, that the park is thriving, but yet there's no way to get, say, from Little Island downtown, because that's kind of our catchment, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In order to get to, say, Pier 57, where there's the Discovery Tank and all those wonderful public spaces, you actually have to go all the way to 8th Avenue, take the subway down, and then take a bus again back. And what we're proposing is thinking about actually adding a bus route. There aren't that many sites going southbound, but there's a multitude of spots going northbound. So it's a long way from 8th Avenue subways. You have shows at Little Island. You have a food court at Pier 57, even though it's a block away from our catchment. You have tens of thousands of kids that play at Pier 40, as well as adults. And unless you ride a city bike, if you happen to be immobile or you have a broken foot or you can't walk, your choices are Uber or not going. So what we'd like to propose is providing access, affordable access, with an MTA bus route that provides access to those who need it most, which is seniors, families, and children. Yes, some might say you can bike there, but if you've taken the Greenway lately, you'll recognize it's really a highway for delivery bikes. And we'll get to that in a second. The other thing that's really important that we heard from both CB1 and CB4 is that in order for people to use it, it should be frequent. If you have a bus that runs every half an hour, that's not reliable. So Christine Berthert at CB4, who was transportation chair for many years there, and is also on the board of Hudson River Park Trust, recommended a 10-minute interval. So that's the key for its use. Next slide is, right now we have 8 lanes. We have 6 all the time, and we have 2 turn-in lanes as well. We have all these lanes, but there are no buses that go on 9A. It's a little bit mind-boggling. So it seems like this would be a slam dunk. And the other thing to think about, I don't know if anybody's read Tom Fox's book, but I pulled this from Tom Fox, is that, you know, West Street was created before there was a park. So now there's this park with 17 million people. I'm just going to read this in case you don't see it. When Route 9A was designed in the 1990s, no one envisioned the developments at Hudson Square, the Meatpacking District, Hudson Yards, and the residential development in Hell's Kitchen. The West Side Waterfront Panel envisioned a boulevard like Park Avenue on the west side. The park, it's really the east side. The park has matured and is visited by 17 million people a year. The inboard neighborhoods have been upzoned and both traffic volumes and transportation modes have changed. Now is the time to redesign 9A to increase resiliency and accommodate both mass transit and micromobility to meet the future needs of the West Side neighborhoods in the park. As you know, we've written a multitude of resolutions trying to figure out a way to provide safe micromobility for delivery bikes that don't interfere with what's supposed to be a safe greenway for cyclists, including children and families. And right now it's not. So we have the busiest greenway in the USA. This is just a still grab. You can see on the right side of the slide, people go down the wrong way all the time. They're head-on collisions there. The trust and the police department don't publish accidents. They only publish deaths. So we have no idea how many people are actually getting injured on the greenway. A bus, as you would, if you take a look at what's in the public record from Greenwich Village Little League and Downtown United Soccer Club, will provide safe access to Pier 40, which is in our catchment, as well as the other fields at Gansevoort. Gansevoort, you might have to walk a block, but there are now these turn-ins at Pier 57 where a bus can easily be accommodated. Pier 40 could be accommodated by a bus. And there are many folks that we heard from on the advisory council that really it should go all the way down to Battery Park City, and that's going on the south side. On the north side, there is a multitude of opportunities to pull the bus over, whether it's at Google or it's up and down the parking, up and down West Street. What the city decides and how far north it goes is fine, but right now we have nothing from 14th Street to Point South. So finally, my recommendation is not to come up with a bus route, but to connect Pier 57 Little Island, which, as you can see from the image on the left, brings in 1,000 people for an event and they can't get there or they can't get downtown. With Pier 40 and Battery Park City southbound, which already have existing turnouts. Now, 5 years ago, they weren't there, but they're there now. So create bus stops at various points along 9A moving north as well. And honestly, you could do it every 2-3 blocks if you wanted to. And that pretty much is my request to consider a bus route that connects a wonderful park that doesn't have accessible public transportation. That's it.
Great, thank you, Dan. Okay, anybody on the committee, do you have questions?
I have a couple.
Janet, and then Susan? Okay, Janet first.
There's a couple of questions. Why only bus stops on the north? Will there not be bus routes going north and south on 9A? Or are you only proposing one way going north?
Well, there are only a few places you can stop southbound safely, Janet. And those are the ones that I identified, Chelsea Piers, but that's outside of our catchment. Pier 57 is a little bit outside of our catchment, although it's a block away from Gansevoort. Pier 40, which is in our catchment. Outside of Pier 26, which is outside in CB1, there's a turnout, but it's really not a turnout for a bus. So southbound has limited places a bus can pull over. The places that I identified has plenty of room. But if you're going northbound, I'm proposing that, yes, on 9A, and you literally could create a local bus that stops every other block. Could be every block, because right now, there's parking on the east side of 9A. For instance, Google took over half the block in order to provide for hire vehicles. Very easily, it could also accommodate a bus stop, which also sits directly across from Pier 40.
Okay, so going south, the bus would pull into all those little spots that you mentioned.
Right. Going south would be more of an express. Going north, it could be a local.
And then how would this work with, because I know we've requested also an express bike lane, to get the bikes off the Greenway. I mean, I don't know that we can get into this design. But I'm just wondering if you thought about that.
I did, and that's why I pulled the quote from Tom's Hudson River Park book. Really, that's in Kate's territory here, is actually creating a resilient boulevard that works with a park that isn't a highway, one that understands that we have micromobility today that didn't exist when 9A was built, and that ultimately what I think we should see is very different looking boulevard that allows for more micromobility, a leisurely greenway, a bus, and essentially not 8 lanes of traffic for cars. I don't think it needs to be that many lanes, but that's a little bit, that's in Kate's territory. I think it's something that should be looked at. And we've mentioned it. Mark Levine has mentioned it. We've mentioned, we all, and we were talking about on the east side, but it's been a few years and we haven't seen much movement on that.
Hey, Susan.
Okay,
and Jean.
first a comment and then a question. Thank you so much. I mean, this seems like a total no-brainer given the explosive growth and success of the Hudson River Park and all the incredible amenities that it offers this community and what a treasure it is. So the idea of maximum accessibility seems, is only to be applauded. So thank you for that, for motivating this. And the second, then I have a question which regards procedure. I mean, clearly this will involve some, support for this, and is not just our community board, and community boards 1 and 4 are equally equal stakeholders in this concept. Procedurally, I don't know how that works with when we are interested in supporting something that might have equal support from our neighboring community boards. Is there a template for that? Do we just?
Ben, do you want to address that?
I'll kick it off, and then I think, Shirley, it might be a good idea for you to follow it up with the messages that you received from the MTA. This originated by, really, Tammy said, I have no way to get home. How am I going to get home? I have a broken foot. She's the chair of CB1, and we were meeting at an advisory council at the Discovery Room on Pier 57. There literally was no way for her to get home other than to take an Uber. We also have support from Christine of CB4, and there are other members that were also part of this conversation. The CB4 chair, I'm spacing on her name right now. She's new. Jessica? Yes, Jessica Chait. So we do have their support. We don't have a resolution from them yet. I'm going to leave it over to Shirley, and Shirley can explain the conversations that she's had with the MTA. It's disappointing they're not here today, but they did say, go ahead and send us all the letters, send us all the material, and we can certainly share this with them. But Shirley, why don't you respond to
Well, I'll just read the messages that we got from Community Board 1 and.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw those.
Oh, okay. So let me, you would have to have resolutions from them as well. Obviously, that would strengthen the ask.
Right.
And they both seem to be very involved and interested in getting this going. Now, I do want to say that I have been speaking with our representative from New York City Transit, and she was a little iffy because, having New York City Transit may take like 100 years until they get to it. However, there were 2 encouraging things. For one, they are doing bus network studies. Now, right now, they're doing Brooklyn and Queens, and they have not set a date for starting the study of Manhattan. But she said that they are sending out their bus people to take a look at this area that we're talking about.
Good.
So that's encouraging. The other part that's encouraging, and I will read this from Christine Berthet from Community Board 4, who says currently there's an M12 bus on 11th and 12th Avenue going north on 12th Avenue from West 14th Street, Chelsea Piers to 57th and 8th, where one can access the subway. And Melissa Farley, who's our NYCT rep, pointed out, she said, there is this bus that does operate above 14th Street. And she said she's aware that they have to fill in the gap. So our hope is maybe if we pressure enough, we can say, look, you got it from 14th to 59th. Now let's fill in the gap. And the gap is really community board too.
Much like the bike lane on 6th Avenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my input. That's my impression, what I have received. So let me just see if there's anybody, we've got Janine. Yeah, and then we're gonna.
I think this is a great idea and it'll really help with north-south movement. I know it's not on the agenda. I'm just gonna throw out the Houston Street bus. I've never taken it because it only operates every 30 minutes. So if you're going from interior CB2 to Hudson River Park, it's frankly faster to walk if you have the ability to do so.
You're talking the M15.
I'm not sure what the number is.
That's what it's called.
The M15. And long ago, we had talked about increasing the frequency of that. Well, we're told there wasn't enough turnaround or something, but that would,
Oh, you something.
yeah, I know, but that would make sense to go hand in hand because this gets the north-south and it'll really connect a lot of the elementary and middle schools that use Pier 40 and all the residents along the west side from Battery Park City through Chelsea to Hudson River Park, but it still doesn't address the need east-west to get to the park.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else on the committee?
Just
Lois?
as, just to the M15 goes all the way up to Bellevue. It goes Houston and then it turns up to the east side. And it's
Is that what?
Bellevue Hospital.
Oh, but that's the east side.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if there could be a connection with the new bus that we're going to have, so that it'll
Oh, yeah.
a transfer right up when we get the
So
bus.
there are, I mean, it would be a great system, right? A great network. Anyhow, anybody else on the committee? Because I see there are folks already who got the little yellow hands up. And Katie Bortomero, who is a Community Board 2 member as us, so we're gonna move on to her. So Katie?
Can you hear me? That's the most important.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark, for figuring out the tech. I too am very supportive of this. I live across the street from Dan, and we have the same transit struggles. I did notice, and Dan, I don't know if you've seen it. I have noticed that that outside the Google building at the corner of Houston and West, there is now a tour bus stop. So here we have the tour buses are active. This is on, the northbound side. The tour buses are active and we, the locals, can't get there. And just to Janine's comment, I would love to use the Houston Street bus, but it never comes. I mean, it's a
Right.
catch-22. They say no one rides it, but I would ride it a lot, but you can never get to it. And it starts in a weird place. It starts at Spring in Washington, and instead of at Washington and Houston. So if they would rethink that bus route and give us more buses, I think there might be more use of that wonderful bus. So
Right.
those are just my comments, and thank you so much, Shirley, for putting this on the agenda. It's really great.
Yeah, Katie, they came to, and Shirley can talk about it, they came to our committee, the tour bus people. We actually allowed them to pull up there based on the fact there's
I'm
so much
glad.
room. Yeah.
Yeah, but why can't we get a city bus,
Yes, no, that's why I said I should have mentioned that, and you're absolutely right. If they can accommodate a tour bus, they should accommodate buses for residents. I agree.
Right, absolutely. Anyhow, Michael, you want to talk? I see you've raised your hand.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michael Marcus in person, but.
So you've got my mug on my own laptop video, but I'm trusting the conference room for audio. Dan, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay, that's great. Very, very briefly on these related topics that you've raised. First, I think it's fantastic that the Hudson River bike path is in front of the committee right now because it's absolutely like human Frogger. I live a half a block away, and the number of accidents I see or near misses I see on a regular basis are off the hook. it's not just a question of police stats, but there's zero policing by any entity there. And all of the various overlapping entities in the region there, whether it's New York State, New York City, the Hudson River cops, there has to be some kind of memorandum of understanding, not just of who's going to pull the dandelions, but who's going to pull the worst offenders over. I've personally called 911 at least once on bad crashes. So that's the safety. West Street in that area, definitely support a bus northbound and southbound. And if necessary modifications need to be made to the Portland cement concrete of the Hudson River Park, so be it. We can easily make, I'm an engineer, we can easily make the turnouts and cutouts as long as everybody's willing to sign off on them. Last point is minor on the usage of West Street itself. I think in the stretch that's Community Board 2, other than up near Little Island, it's 4 lanes one way and 3 the other. And I would strongly, strongly, strongly advocate against a northbound bike lane in the street. For one thing, there's already the bike lane, let's police it. But second, a mix of northbound cars and northbound bikes. And I came zooming into the room here on a scooter, I ride a bike also, car, whatever. A northbound bike lane would necessitate either signalization of virtually every intersection that's eastbound, or just brace for more injuries and perhaps deaths. Cars would be turning across in front of bikes constantly without signalization. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
I did want to mention one thing that, so when 9A was created, and this is for Kate, they kind of messed up. They created horizontal ridges, which actually create a lot of sound. Really should have been vertical. So if you have an opportunity to change the way the pavers are on 9A, you'll actually make it a lot more conducive and quiet to coincide with the park, which is adjacent to it.
So more holistically you can do it, the better, right?
I'll just throw out that 9A is state operated.
True.
Not the city DOT.
That is true. Yeah.
But that is good to know.
Yeah, DOT just does the signalization, right?
We worked with the we for Gansevoort and the new crosswalk down there, we work with the state DOT for that.
Right.
And to Michael's point about no enforcement, it's something we bring up every meeting and people are outraged and nothing happens. And ultimately, city DOT's hands are tied, state DOT's just not involved. We try, Levine, I think, is one guy we brought. We try to bring them. They're just not engaged with us. The New York City Police Department has other more important items to deal with, and that's why you see so many rule breakings on the Greenway. They promise to do every once in a while stops and education. The park has done everything it can, but also it's out of their jurisdiction. It's out of PEP's jurisdiction. And ultimately, I think we had a resolution that maybe a month or 2 ago that recommended that the state gives it up. Either they do something about it or they actually give up the control of the Greenway because they're not doing their job.
True. So anyhow, I see Katie again.
I just wanted to say I just wanted to add in terms of the surface of 9A, I sat on the community council that met weekly about it. And at the time, the thinking was that this was a surface that would last for 50 years and that there would be no need to resurface it. But shortly after it was installed, everyone realized it was just too loud. The decibels were so high, but I encourage changing it, but I do know that the plan was a 50-year lifespan, and I think we're about halfway through that. So
it was 92, I think it was built, and so we're
30.
already at 32 years. So yeah.
So let's plan to make it quieter. I agree.
Anthony, anybody else that you see wants to say anything? Okay, by the way, Anthony is our host for tonight, which means he's running the show. So, anyhow, Anthony won. So I guess that's it. We'll talk about it in business session. We're going to move on to you, Michael. And Mulry Square, and for those of you who don't know what Mulry Square is, it is that awful intersection. What is it? Six
legs.
4, 5, 6 different arms coming in. West 11th Street, Greenwich Avenue, and 7th Avenue. And Michael has a request and really a proposal, I think, right? To making things a little better there right now.
Let me share
Problems with the cross.
folder with photos. So share screen, finder, you able to share? I think I'm getting there. Not that good at this.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael Markowitz. I've been living in the neighborhood for 30 years. My wife grew up here. I'm a licensed civil engineer. And one of the things that I deal with professionally is traffic. I'd like to think I'm helping alleviate it, not make more of it. For example, the brainstorming that Sam Schwartz put together for Gonsworth Plaza, the idea to make it a triangular sitting and flexible area with bypass lanes was something that me and the think tank group that I was working with came up with. Most recently, I've untangled after retangling all the traffic at LaGuardia Airport. But all that pales in comparison to wanting to make our own neighborhood a little bit safer. So first I want to show those of you who aren't familiar with the corner that used to be off the southwest corner of St. Vincent's Hospital and Zazzy's Pizza till it closed up. So I'm just going to throw a couple shots up on the screen of what it looks like now for those of you who aren't familiar. And, sorry, Mark, I'm sharing just that folder, but not stuff that I opened up in it. Give me a sec, folks, here.
Can you help?
Stop sharing. Share screen. Sorry. All right, here we go. So this is a look from sitting in front of Zazzy's Pizza, looking east. And the notable thing in this picture that I'm going to dwell on and then race through some of the others is all these people are walking where there's no crosswalk. Absolutely none. Where the guy is with his back to us on the right, there should be a crosswalk, and there used to be, and we'll come back to that. Where the woman on the dead center is with the purse, she's actually in a crosswalk that's faded out, that runs diagonally through the intersection, which is just craziness. Let's see if I can. Mark, it's only letting me share one slide at a time. How do I get to share the whole screen? I want to open up things one at a time without. Open up all of them and then click through. All right, sorry everybody. Yeah, I want to get all 8 of those.
Single click on one and click space. It'll like bring it out, and you can click the arrows to shuffle through them.
You guys try. Sorry, everybody.
Oh. It should work well.
Okay. Okay, great. So here's later in the same light phasing. So the lady with the purse is actually either cheating or that car just turned southbound out of 11th Street, not sure which. still not doing the whole thing. Let me share my desktop. About Finder, go from there.
That's right.
Instead of sharing that screen, can you share? Sorry.
I don't want to share just that one screen. I'll share the whole desktop.
The way I would do that is to open up all of them, then just toggle back and forth through share screen. They're all there, you're not waiting for them to load.
All right, we'll give that a try. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, you know what the problem is?
Are these the same ones that we put up on the website?
I have no idea.
I think there are more of them here than we have on the website.
Nobody's
I think they're all
say.
more on the website.
Right, exactly. In other words, it's going there, and that's fine.
Although
Believe me,
it's
it's fine. It's my project originally.
No, I can open it. The issue is whether,
Well, the designer, they should have both. He's not gonna say that. He's gonna say, go back to
If
this.
they-
Then maybe they should just make like the entire triangle and
But-
crossing and time the lights so that you can
Right,
cross
so now you-
and it would triangle at the
Oh,
same
no,
time.
so-
There you go.
okay,
Make the
Right.
entire,
all right.
yeah, well, I make this whole
This one.
crosswalk,
Yeah.
triangle here. And so that if you're here or here.
All right,
Should be able
so,
to toggle now.
cross-
okay, thanks very much. So the
Yeah.
view of the Lexus turning is somebody coming out of westbound 11th Street. And believe it or not, that SUV has a green light. And so do the pedestrians walking through diagonally on a Cockamamie crosswalk. Here's a view from,
I think we see the chaos. What's your?
yeah, let me go to one of the other folders then.
We're convinced that it's a mess.
Okay, so you're convinced. Let me go to one of the other folders. Okay. Okay, let me then go to one aerial view from another folder, and then I'll talk our way through it from that. Sorry, this is such a pain in the neck, everybody. All right, this will have to do for today. So here's an aerial view, and I want to thank Shirley for sending this along to me from Google Earth View, effectively, of what it looks like now. So I'm just going to use my cursor to wave my hands around. This is the diagonal crosswalk that we're having problems with. What used to be here is where I'm sweeping the cursor back and forth. And that makes sense because on a six-legged intersection, if you want to walk around it, you walk around the perimeter. There would be 6 links. Most importantly, if you're westbound on West 11th Street, wanting to continue on 11th Street, or northbound onto Greenwich Avenue, you don't have this Cockamamie crosswalk. And the reason for that crosswalk being there is once upon a time, before it's the wine bar now, way back when it was the 5 and dime shop, and then an adult store, they were working on this corner and took out the light pole. So they made this as sort of a construction jerry-rig for a year or so, and then never put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So the proposal is put the crosswalk back where it belongs. As it turns out, the crosswalk timing will work except for one thing. When they modernized the intersection, southbound on 7th Avenue was given a special left turn pocket phase after the wine bar and condo building was built. But the pedestrian phases don't quite work with the left turn pocket. And I won't bore you with the nerdy numbers there, but I wrote it all down. The balance of phasing works about right. It's more or less 40 seconds southbound, 25 seconds for westbound 11th, 25 seconds for Greenwich Avenue. But the snag with the crosswalk timing that doesn't make sense is when it's green for bikes, it should also be green for pedestrians. The pedestrians are being asked to wait when it's totally safe. And so consequently, the southbound, northbound pedestrians on the east side, they're just ignoring the walk and don't walk lights all the time. So the two big changes are put the crosswalk back where you found it and adjust the timing. Sorry about the herky jerk visuals. That's the gist of it. And thank you for having me in.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, questions, comments?
Just a comment. I mean, this intersection, since it got reconfigured this way, which as you describe it is basically a tail wag straw configuration because of the light pole, which is really strange. But anyway, it doesn't work for anybody. It's like a choose your own adventure intersection, whether you're a driver, a cyclist, or a pedestrian. And aside from the fact that there's utter confusion at this highly unorthodox configuration, the confusion results in one other dangerous condition, which is hesitancy. The drivers are hesitant, the pedestrians are hesitant, the cyclists are, nobody knows what to do here. And that creates its own thing. And you can see a thought process as people are crossing the street. Wait, what am I supposed to do? Wait, I don't see any cars. I'm just going to dash now. I mean, I don't think any of us who's ever crossed over there hasn't had that own experience, hasn't had that actual experience. So, you know, I think this is super.
Yeah, anybody else? Janet.
So thank you. Yes, I use this intersection all the time and I always cross from the north side because the south side, that's the way I go. One question, well, I guess it's sort of two. I'll just say them both and let you answer. If we eliminate that diagonal, will people walk that way anyway? Because that's desire line. And have you considered putting back the old crosswalk, keeping that and making that whole triangular area, making that entire space a crosswalk?
Those are great questions. Let me answer them in parts. First of all, the right thing to do is never to have a diagonal through an intersection, with one exception. If you're in a business district and you're going to stop all the cars and let all the people do every pedestrian motion at the same time. This ain't that, because there aren't the volumes of either the pedestrians or the cars to justify all pedestrians or the three different car motions. So I'm kind of addressing here, why not make that just a big triangular crossy hatch area? It's not appropriate for this location. The second part of that is, will people do that anyway? Look, you could make the case that it's actually a shorter diagonal to walk straight from Zazzy's to Starbucks. And if anybody wants to do that, they're violating every single car movement. And that's just total jaywalking, no matter what the car phase is. So as an engineer, I'd say it's very hard to prevent jaywalking, but you don't want to reward something that'll put a pedestrian in front of a car. And the worst direction for pedestrians here on the silly diagonal crosswalk, yeah, I get it that it looks parallel to the other side of Greenwich Avenue, but that's as if the intersection didn't have an 11th Street spur going off it to the west. If you eliminated that, people wouldn't walk it because it would feel like you're walking across either the southbound 7th Avenue or Greenwich Avenue, northbound or southbound, who want to turn south onto 7th Avenue, or 11th Street turning halfway south. So to our colleague's point here, hesitancy, yeah, for good reason in that case. Pedestrians would always see risk to jaywalk that length. And now we're encouraging them to do something dangerous. And let me just tell you, when I was working at LaGuardia, the first night I drove home, and I used the West 11th all the time, and the crosswalk was moved, it was dark, I didn't see the new crosswalk. All I saw was like 3 people walking in front of my hood. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Okay, I'd like to say something. I'm going to give you a little history. You know what? This never panned out right. I worked on that project. I'm not an engineer, I'm an urban planner. But years ago, with Project for Public Spaces, we did some studies. We had a small grant from the city of New York. And what we discovered was that most people cross 7th Avenue on that diagonal to get to that particular corner. And so a desire line. Kate, have you any information on how this ended up the way it did? Because it was something we discovered, we reported in our report. We did not make a recommendation for crosswalks. All we were concerned about was extending the corners to shorten them so people at least could have less distance to get killed. Okay. So Kate, do you have any information?
So this configuration predates my time at DOT, but certainly happy to go back and check in with my colleagues as to why the intersection is laid out this way. It's possible that it may have been an attempt to standardize it and to give pedestrians crosswalk, where they were already walking. But again, would have to check and get additional background and share that with the community board.
Yeah, maybe we should. So that was.
Well, let me just say as a.
But my thought always was they should have both those crosswalks.
Well,
Is that
let me stick to my guns.
Yeah.
To put a crosswalk in, because that's where people are jaywalking, and to leave it a simple 3-phase intersection, as I said before, I'd be repeating myself. You would have people walking on a green conflicting with one of the 3 vectors of cars who also have a green. That's no way to run a crosswalk.
Except that they do it. They're going to do it regardless of whether a crosswalk
Any safer, it's
or
a
not.
false illusion of
But-
safety.
But right now, it's horribly dangerous. And as you're saying, every which way. And when they go across that diagonal, I was looking at it the other day, and what they do is they go across the diagonal and then they veer to get to the straight across. Some do, and some go on the diagonal. So it's-
And let me just backtrack on one thing a little bit. I had no idea that there was some intent behind this.
Well, I don't know if there was.
But-
that
Hey,
was-
as a disclaimer, excuse me, pardon me. I just said as a disclaimer, this predates my time and I have to double check what the background is. I said it could be possible that it was an attempt to standardize the intersection. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was just
I was speaking with respect to Shirley saying there'd been a previous study about it. My recollection of the history matches the Google Earth historic photos that show this was modified when they had a construction fence that included the corner in the lower left. So I just assumed, if it walked like a duck, talked like a duck, it was construction related. If it was done on purpose, as an engineer, I'd say, well, we'll go back and revisit the study that led to what clearly empirically don't work. And yes, I understand it's before your
It
time.
definitely doesn't work, you're right. But that was the fine.
And Kate, respectfully, if we're
People
gonna,
will do it regardless.
sure, I get that, but you
So
don't,
how do we
you don't give
protect that?
jaywalkers crosswalks, you
Yeah.
protect them with appropriate
And I
timing.
think that's the question. What do we ask for?
And Kate, in terms of standardization, if I could ask, there are a good number of these 6-way and similar intersections where 7th Avenue South was cut through the village. I live nearby. I can't think of another one that has a diagonal crosswalk. The standardization, in my view, should be to make it like all the others where you force people to walk around the perimeter. This is the only one where you walk through the, what I'm calling the diagonal. The only one. Thanks.
So so what do you mean by that, Michael? Forcing?
Well,
people to
you should
go
have.
by the
You should have to walk the perimeter. You should have to go in where I want to see that crosswalk corrected.
I'm going to just throw out a suggestion. We have, of course, I was the one who raised the issue of Houston Street bus. But we have on our agenda recommendations for this specific intersection, and you've pulled some great information together. So I think we should just focus on what we would like at this intersection and what's doable, and not all the other problems that we have out there.
Right.
So the best thing is really to ask DOT to do a study to point out the problems, correct? And I'm asking you.
Oh, what my recommendation was to cut to the quick. Don't ask them to do a study, ask them to put the crosswalk back where it was originally. Very simple. And take a look at the pedestrian green timing on the two legs on the east side, now that there's a bike phase and a left turn phase.
Could be a pedestrian solution.
Well, I addressed that before. Pedestrian only phrase would pretty much mean none of the, call it, 6 tracks of cars move at all while you're waiting for everyone to mushy across.
Yeah.
As I said earlier,
Yeah, we were saying barn stands.
Yeah, why
no,
not?
no. The reason, as I said earlier, was where that's justified would be like in Midtown, where you have like a big number of pedestrians and they're falling off the corners, and you'll provide more efficient movement to everybody concerned by letting all the pedestrians mushy to whatever 3 typically crossings they want to do.
There's not cars at every vehicle phase in the first place, is there?
Wait a minute, we're getting a lot of cross conversation here.
Well, again, I gave the classic engineering planning reason where those are appropriate, and this doesn't qualify. And then just because there's relatively fewer number of pedestrians, to stop all 3 car movements for some pedestrians, to me, just isn't balanced. And there's no other intersection in the village doing what you're advocating, which is sort of a don't block the box idea for the cars so that all the pedestrians can free flow. This shouldn't be the pilot. Let's try that at a 4-way intersection.
Okay, the signal timing, the green timing, that's for the left turn,
Southbound 7th Avenue
southbound.
now effectively has sub-phases,
See.
one for a left
No,
turn.
11th Street goes the other way.
Southbound 7th Avenue, let me wiggle the cursor.
Yeah,
So southbound 7th Avenue
yeah,
now has a sub-phase, 2 sub-phases really. One for the left turn motion onto Greenwich Avenue,
okay. Sure.
and one for bikes who are continuing southbound.
And for.
And, you know, what I could do for you, Shirley, and the committee
Yeah.
is, I brought them with me as handwritten notes, but since we're down to the detail there, I could write up what the existing light phase timing is, make a little table out of it, and then suggested how to fix it.
And then we could.
Because
send it
to some of the other
DOT.
speakers' points, that would allow more green for pedestrians. Like, again,
Right.
it's silly to have pedestrians wait for nothing when it's a safe crossing.
Okay. Because we always don't consider what's that. No, we don't give you anything. Katie? Katie?
Well, yes, hello, thank you. The first thing that strikes me in the photos, I mean, I'm often at this intersection, and it's a little it's crazy when you're there trying to figure out where you're supposed to walk, where the cars are, you know, who's turning right and left. But the first thing that strikes me is that even though it's a crazy system, the crosswalk is not well painted today. I mean, it shouldn't be so faint. People can't even see, you know, this poor construction or idea. And it is a school. There's a school, you know, on 11th Street. So there's a school crossing guard there. It used to be when my kids went to PS 41. So it's very important to get it right. But it does seem to me that the committee worked on this configuration in the past. I mean, there was a big hullabaloo about the MTA vent there at Greenwich 7th Avenue. But it seems to me that the committee worked very hard. I can't find my past notes. So, Kate, you should have information in your files about, you know, the thinking about this
Yeah,
Well, this
the
configuration
first
was, we
study
don't
is
think works
fine.
anymore.
Goes back to about 1994, I think.
Yeah,
Something,
it's a long time ago.
yeah, a bit of a while ago. So anyhow, okay, so I think that's all for the committee and the community board people. Anybody else in community board? Okay, let's go to our guest.
Yeah, I live.
Can you identify yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Ethan Schmidt. I live a block away from that intersection.
Oh, wow.
I walk through there all the time. I agree with what a lot of other committee board members have said, that pedestrians are going to use that as a desired path, and it is very frequent, going to and from the village. So I don't see why a pedestrian only phasing would be a bad idea. But so I would say recommend that if that's what people are doing, allow them to do that safely.
You mean like a scramble?
Yeah.
A scramble or a bar thing.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of people going across. I would say that since Zazzy's closed recently, there's a lot less traffic, pedestrian traffic going to that corner. So if you do any studies, at least take that into consideration that 2 a.m. there's going to be a lot of people going from Greenwich Avenue to Zazzy's or whatever.
Okay, you know what I'd like to ask, because my experience has been that, at least the times of day I'm there, and that doesn't mean it's all times of day, that intersection is used a lot. There's a lot of people. I'm talking about people. Pedestrians. And I think based on the number of pedestrians, I think you have to take into consideration serving that critical mass, okay? I know you're saying there's a lot of traffic there too. I mean, vehicular traffic.
Well, I'm just.
So how do you balance
Not to
that
the
out?
level that justifies the scramble. And let me also add, just as an aside, I used to love Zazzy's, and what's coming in there next, I asked the construction guy, it's gonna be a bagel shop.
Another one?
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
another bagel shop.
Let's stick to the.
Oh, well, that's. Maybe they can put out a person to direct the traffic.
Well, that would be at least good for the midnight or after midnight traffic. That'll cut down. Zazzy's is really after midnight kind of traffic stop.
Okay, let me ask something else. I'm just grabbing at straws. What do you think about signage? Would signage do any?
No way.
Go.
Nobody's gonna read it. I hate to say that.
No, the kind of sideways answer to that is, transportation engineers spend a lot of effort conditioning people to a certain routine and a language, whether it's in terms of signage or signalization and whatnot. And people actually absorb that, whether they realize it or not. Everybody understands intuitively flashing red for a walker means you better hustle because it might turn to solid red. And now there's countdown crosswalk timers. Yellow is warning, green is information. All this stuff is kind of subtle, but part of the game is to keep that consistent. So one-offs are always
Maybe
bring their own risk to them.
Maybe change the signal. You said changing the signalization, but that's really to match
Right.
the need.
Well, because what I infer happened is when they, again, put in the bike lane and the left turn arrow for southbound 7th Avenue, they just left the walkers signal alone. Should have been tied in.
So tie in the signals is another one. The bike signals is the walker signals.
Yeah.
Because you can usually cross 11th Street.
Right. Right.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Do we have anybody else that's waiting to, anybody here of our guest? Nope, okay. So I can go into business session.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Michael.
Are we gonna?
It's really, it's probably something.
Write some stuff up for you.
Right, so Kate, we'd appreciate any feedback we can get from DOT on it too. And in the meantime, I guess we have to figure out what we say. Now, is Dan there anymore?
This guy's camera on.
Dan, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Oh, okay, so we're into business session. And since you were first, I guess we have to, and you're gonna be writing a resolution too. So.
I mean, I'm fine with it. Is that if it's, as long as it's not against the rules to present and write the resolution, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, do we want to feed in some thoughts about this?
I mean, Dan mentioned it. I mean, I would like, I don't know, I mean, we have an agenda item, which I think we all strongly support. Do we want to reference our earlier support of an express bike lane and that we want them to work together?
Yeah, I think that's part of the presentation, you know, Janet, that holistically, yes, this is one issue, but we should look at the entire design of the street as well. There's an opportunity.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. As a condition of the street as well as the design, meaning the markings, that was brought up, right? So that you'll be talking about.
Yeah, ultimately, it was never the intent to put a highway next to a park. And as Kate said, this is state DOT. They're not really down here, and it really detracts from the park atmosphere, having heavy traffic. And I think a street redesign and more public transportation and alternative mobility options for delivery bikes would solve many of those issues.
Anybody else want to just feed in something that we haven't said? Just the only thing that I would say also is it's, you know, it's the Hudson River Park, but it's more than the Hudson River Park there. I would say that it's really, that the neighborhood has changed completely from what it used to be. And that there's a lot of more residential occurring there. There's business like this Google, and this used to be an industrial area. And we need to change in reaction to what has changed there. That's the thing that I would add. Because I really, the folks that live there, the folks that work there need this too, as well as the folks that use it for recreation. So that would be my take.
Great.
Anybody else? Okay, so that's.
So do I have until September 19th to write this? I'm just kidding. So I have a little time.
What's that?
I said, I guess I have a little time to write this. I'll write it right away, but it doesn't get presented until September 19th.
Get it out of the way.
I'll get it out of the way.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm going to, okay, all right, what kind, yeah.
It should also be presented at exact
Oh,
August.
In August.
okay, oh, okay.
And then you'll also.
I was gonna
present it-
ask about that, so, but it won't be final thing, right?
Correct, but you can
Okay.
send it out as a
You
committee.
hear that, Sam? That's.
Yeah, I did. I'll draft it right away so that
Oh,
August exec can hear it. Thank you.
But it will not be finalized.
It'll be
till
voted on
September.
at exec and then again at full board.
Okay, voted, I'm gonna put it on myself in August exec. And then the full board, okay. Okay, so we're up to Mulry Square, pardon me for using the abbreviation, it's a lot easier than saying all those other streets. So, okay. How do you all feel about what to say?
Well, I think the whereases are clear that there's a series of problems at that
Right.
intersection, which Michael delineated.
The problems of helter skelter, right?
Technical language.
Right, technical language, exactly.
I mean, and we all agree it should be.
And, I mean, confusion and not combining the walking mode, walking and bike modes. Not combining actually regulation, I would say, of the walking and bike modes, right? Something like that. Okay. And
So I guess.
I mean, that's really basically it. The point being that once upon a time, there used to be this straightforward crosswalk that went across 7th Avenue. And let's see, I guess it was Greenwich, right? From Greenwich and 7th to 11th, I suppose. Yeah, is that the end? That the original was, I mean, I'm looking at the sketch and you got a little bit of 11th coming in, but it was actually more that particular curb was more to do with where the curb starts at Greenwich, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Right.
if I may, it's to cross from the southeast corner of the overall intersection to the southwest corner of the overall intersection.
Well, yeah, sort of southeast corner. I think I have written that down. Section. The southwest corner.
Yeah.
Do you remember the intersection when it was in that configuration?
It was a what?
I'm asking Michael
Yeah, I
if he
do.
remembers.
That's the way it was when my kids were at PS41.
Okay, and you remember that?
I remember because they
fine?
used to ask me what's for sale in the adult store and across the other way.
Does anybody else? I mean, I remember it, obviously,
And it worked
but I
okay?
read the mental deleting times.
One of the
No, it
reasons,
didn't. That's what I'm telling you, that it didn't, because you always had many people following the desire lines in that diagonal.
but I just want to say, if I may, a couple of things about
Sure.
that. I think the precedent of, well, people do it anyway, so let's memorialize it, which perhaps is what led to this diagonal unorthodox configuration, is not really a sound principle in general. This sort of people do it anyway, so what the
I
hell?
don't
let's do
agree.
it. Well, the reason I don't think it's a sound principle here is very specific. I mean, without getting into a theoretical
Yeah.
conversation, which is a whole philosophical other
Right.
conversation. But pragmatically, I think that a consistency of vocabulary of what happens when at an intersection is integral to safety and to compliance, because we all know, I mean, it's what Michael was saying, we know when the light is red, we cross, when this happens. And I think violations of that, in order to remedy a unique situation, create more problems than they solve.
Well, it's not a unique situation. The trend in many places, and in New York
This isn't
too,
unique.
is to follow the desire line. And in this case, the study that we did found that the majority of people were going on that diagonal. So if you're talking about pedestrian safety, my point is you should have the crosswalks in both directions.
But in that case, then everything else needs to change too.
That's right.
I mean, if you can't have half of one system and half of
Exactly.
another system.
Exactly. That's my point of view.
And
I don't know what
you have to
anything
have a
is.
standardization of.
That's why I'm suggesting that a study is done to figure out how it works. And
Yeah.
I mean, okay, Michael, you're an engineer. I don't know this. I only know the ideals. Is it possible to have crosswalks in both places and have some kind of signalization that would support both?
I don't know the answer to that.
See, that's really
That's-
what my,
But just the semicolon is, I've never seen anything like that. And that smells like, to me, half an intersection that's a free-for-all and the other half plays by the traditional expectations. But if I might add, one other thing here that makes this so atypical is westbound cars on West 11th are coming up the back side of pedestrians walking in the northwest who have a green walk signal. Whatever ends up coming to that.
yeah, the
that can't stay.
signalization is
That just can't
cuckoo.
stay.
Well, maybe we could look into stop traffic can't continue on 11th Street. Traffic has to go up Greenwich. We could eliminate an intersection. I don't know, you get rid of you turn
At
this into
one
shared
point,
street space,
incidentally,
there's-
DOT, Kate doesn't know this, but I will tell you, Kate, DOT actually had contemplated reversing West 11th Street from 7th Avenue to 6th Avenue as one way of kind of,
eliminating that. Okay, so I think one has to be creative,
and
and
then that didn't work.
they decided against it. Did they ever do it? No.
No. No, but they studied it and they found that that wasn't the answer, okay? And that the idea, I think it started out, the reason that we did the study, and we're not, as I said, traffic engineers or planners, was basically as a study for the design of the sidewalk and the design of getting pedestrians across. So that meant all those neck downs, and we had wanted bigger neck downs, as a matter of fact, which would shorten the crossing more. But we never talked about crosswalks or signalization because that was up to DOT. Yeah.
If I may, the neck downs are great, and I didn't
Yeah.
speak to them, but, and thank you for letting me speak in the working business meeting. The neck downs are great, and the big reason for neck downs is it allows for safer, shorter
Sure.
pedestrian crossing,
Exactly.
where they're not out there in front of the cars for so long.
Right.
So it's, in general, to me, it's very good practice to make a neck down that's the width of a parking lane on both sides. You get 24 more feet of safety and protection and
Yeah.
wider sidewalks.
Yeah. it's-
Yeah, no problem there.
Yeah, no, and that was really our contribution. And I think we were one of the first ones that ever put paint on the street as a temporary experiment. But, okay, having said that, I mean, I could go on forever about this project. But anyhow, the point being that, okay, so you got the neck downs and they revised them, and DOT did a lot of other things. And as you said, over the years, they kept changing it around and changing it around. But it's obviously, they still haven't come to what the right thing is. See, so my feeling would be, this needs to be done, what you're saying. And at the same time, seems to be a critical mass of people who are actually using the diagonal crosswalk. And I mean, Susan, you could also say, I don't know if you know what a barn stance is. It was what this young man was talking about.
No.
And
I do.
the idea of stopping all traffic, that's not very kosher, is it? By the way, it was invented by a commissioner of transportation for New York City, whose name was Barnes, incidentally. And somewhere along the line, they stopped doing it. And then they're starting to again. But the point is not because, oh, hey, those are the rules then. No, these are the rules then. Is my opinion, you have to be flexible enough to react to what's going on in the street. Michael, you're right. What's going on in the street is awful. As I noticed, yes, millions of people are going on the diagonal, but another million are diverting from the diagonal and totally in danger. So my feeling is this, okay? My feeling is that we should enumerate all the things that you're saying. Maybe at a few that we're observing. Talk about the need for that original crosswalk because so many pedestrians are using it. Observing that many pedestrians as well, and maybe more, are using the diagonal crosswalk. And that some people are suggesting that the only way to do this is a barn stance. But this whole thing, and then the signalization you're talking about, and that this requires study. And we are asking the Department of Transportation as soon as possible to study potential of using, revising what's there now, okay? Would you agree?
Up to a point. I'll write up some notes for you.
Um,
As I said before, professionally, I don't believe in rewarding jaywalkers. And we could play that game all over the village and all over New York.
It's just
Give them the
it's
safe place to
Oh.
cross
I do have,
and hope they comply.
I do have another question. It would be great, you're talking about other intersections on Seventh Avenue. It would be great if we could plug in what some of those intersections are as models for what might be the answer.
I can
We were looking-
combine the aerial
Can you
views.
send
Yeah,
a few aerial
there's
views?
squares.
Just
that
describe
point this out.
Yeah, because I know that DOT has been working on Seventh Avenue forever. Because I think, and now the bid is going, the West Village bid, the new bid is going to be doing a study of Seventh Avenue. So I'm just wondering,
There is like most of the intersections on Seventh Avenue are just four-way intersections. But the intersection at like West Fourth and Christopher is also like has a lot of stuff going on. It's not exactly the same, but
That's the only one that's really a six-way. in addition to this one.
and
yeah.
it is six-way?
It's, I mean,
Like Morandi, it chops it off because Seventh Avenue doesn't
Oh,
perfectly
we're
go
talking
through.
about where
Yeah.
Miranda is, yeah. And you
So-
know, we're going to have a co-name there at that little park, which is called, not Christopher Park, where is it?
The duplex farther down.
No, the
Yes.
little- Right by Miranda. It's, what is the name of that little park? McCarthy Square.
I move we change it to Morandi Square.
No, Miranda, you know, they could, right? God forbid. But anyhow, yeah, so we're gonna be having somebody coming for a co-name there, coincidentally. And it is a weird intersection, isn't it? But the traffic
it's
comes in a
different.
different way. It comes
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
Waverly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not-
So that's about the only one, do you think, from what you're just looking at?
I mean, looking
that
down
is
Seventh Avenue, like
really
most of
an
the
example?
intersections really are four-way. Like, they're all pretty
They're all
normal
twisted.
intersections, you know, they're at an angle, but it's all
Right.
way.
Well, the difference is that Greenwich Avenue is two-way. And all the other ones that intersect are one-way streets. And so when they don't even have, when they have lights, it's easier to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
fact that Greenwich Avenue has two ways, so there's always going to be someone making the right turn either
It's a
direction.
more complex.
It makes it a lot more
Yeah.
complex. So it's actually adding another thing. I don't think any of the other ones intersect
Right.
are
That's a
two-way.
really interesting observation.
But didn't-
In other words, it's almost like a seven.
Well, there's a domino effect, but
But
didn't DOT, I was not here at the time, but didn't they propose making Greenwich Avenue a one-way street? I think they had a plan to make Greenwich Avenue one-way with a two-way protected bike lane.
was that what it was?
I didn't know, I was before I joined the board, but I thought that DOT had,
I don't
I might be
remember
mistaken.
that.
Okay,
But that doesn't matter. My memory is fading anyhow.
it was before I joined, but I thought at some point they had recommended because the slip lane off Sixth Avenue is so bad too.
So maybe we ask about configuration of Greenwich, including configuration of Greenwich Avenue. How's that? Configuration of Greenwich Avenue to one way.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and as I say, they tried already the reversal of West 11th Street, which in a way may have worked.
Yeah, I don't understand what, this is a different conversation, but I don't
Yeah.
know why West 11th, I mean, that would seem to be a good idea, is changing the direction.
Right.
Terrible,
You don't think so?
absolutely.
Well, anyhow, that's my opinion. What do you think?
support.
Yeah,
That's good.
do we do it, you know, okay, yes? Yes? Oh, you're not on.
I can, yeah.
Rose, yes?
Yes, of
Oh,
course.
okay, yeah, it's a lesser study. And we'll say, hurry up, so Michael, you can
Yeah,
get
hurry
some
up.
action. It only took us, what, 10 years to get the stop signs?
Thank you for bringing that up. I'll share with you to share with everyone else, photos. The painted stop bar and stop is in now as well,
Oh,
like by about a
good.
week, but now it works great. And after the first week of all the regulars getting caught by surprise, it works like a charm. Thank you so much.
Oh, How gratifying. For anybody that doesn't know, this is about stop signs that we've been asking for on Washington Street forever. It's Washington and what's?
Bank.
Bank, right. So anyhow, that's it. Anybody else? Anybody there on of our guests that want to say anything? Online, Anthony? Nothing, huh?
Nope.
Okay. Same here. Anybody here want to make two cents before we say gone, gone, gone? No. Okay. All right, then, thank you all. Thanks for your input. Meeting over.
Thank
you. Okay.